The Dodgers came to Colorado looking for momentum. They left with something even more valuable, a sweep, but the final game of the series was anything but easy. Los Angeles built a 4-run lead, watched Colorado erase it, and then had to survive extra innings before finally winning 6-4. And perhaps the most surprising part of the night was not who delivered the biggest hit, it was who didn't. Shohei Ohtani, who had dominated the first 2 games of the series with 3 home runs, suddenly went quiet at the plate, yet somehow, the Dodgers still found a way to win. And that may tell us something extremely important about this team as the regular season moves toward its most critical stage. Before we get into how the Dodgers survived another dramatic game at Coors Field, make sure you subscribe to Baseball Pulse and turn on notifications for more Dodgers and Shohei Ohtani updates. The Dodgers entered the final game of the series with plenty of momentum. Ohtani had already produced one of his best stretches of the season. In the first game of the series he homered twice, then in the second game he launched another massive home run, giving him 30 for the season and extending his streak of 6 consecutive 30-homer seasons. But baseball has a funny way of changing the story from one night to the next. On Wednesday, Ohtani was back in the leadoff spot as the designated hitter. This time, however, the hits weren't coming. He finished the game without a hit in 4 at-bats, although he did draw a walk and reached base once. After 3 consecutive games in which Ohtani had been one of the biggest offensive stories in baseball, the superstars suddenly became a much quieter part of the box score. And yet the Dodgers didn't panic. That is where the story gets interesting, because Los Angeles proved that even when Ohtani isn't producing, the lineup still has enough firepower to win. The first breakthrough came in the second inning. Mookie Betts started the rally with a single. Kyle Tucker followed with another hit. Suddenly the Dodgers had runners at the corners with 2 outs. That was the moment when Kiké Hernández stepped up. And he delivered. Hernández lined a single into center field, bringing home the game's opening run. 1-0 Dodgers. It was a simple play, but it established something important. Los Angeles wasn't waiting for Ohtani to rescue the offense. Other players were ready to take responsibility. Then the 4th inning arrived, and Mookie Betts decided to make his presence felt in a much bigger way. Betts led off the inning and sent a ball deep into left field. Gone. A solo home run. The Dodgers had doubled their advantage, 2-0, and they weren't finished. Kyle Tucker followed with another hit, continuing what was becoming an encouraging offensive night for him. Then Hernández came back to the plate, and once again he delivered. This time he launched a 2-run home run. Suddenly the Dodgers had scored 3 runs in the inning. The score was now 4-0. At that point it looked like Los Angeles was heading toward another comfortable victory. But if you've watched enough baseball at Coors Field, you know better than to assume a 4-run lead is safe. The Rockies had plenty of time, and they had no intention of letting the Dodgers walk away easily. Roki Sasaki was doing enough to keep Los Angeles in control. He eventually completed 5 innings throwing 99 pitches. He allowed 7 hits and 2 runs while striking out 6 and walking 1. It wasn't a flawless outing, but it was a competitive performance that gave the Dodgers a chance to win. And according to MLB's Game Report, Sasaki's recent second-half improvement has been one of the more encouraging developments for the Dodgers, but the Dodgers' defense gave Colorado an opportunity to cut into the lead. With runners on second and third, a ball hit toward left field turned into a difficult defensive play, and Colorado scored twice. Suddenly the 4-0 advantage was down to 4-2. The Rockies were back in the game, and the Dodgers knew they could not afford to relax. Still, Los Angeles carried the 2-run advantage into the later innings. Then came the 7th, and everything changed. With 2 outs, Colorado put a runner on base. Mickey Moniak stepped into the batter's box, and he changed the game with 1 swing. Moniak launched a 2-run home run, his 20th of the season, and suddenly the scoreboard read 4-4. A 4-run Dodgers lead had completely disappeared. The game had been reset, and from that point forward, neither team could find the winning run in regulation. The Dodgers had gone from cruising toward victory to fighting for survival, but that is exactly where this team needed to show something different, because winning close games is a skill. You need patience, you need timely hitting, you need players who can handle pressure. And you need the bullpen to make the important pitches. The Dodgers got all of that when it mattered most. The game went into the 10th inning. Los Angeles had one more opportunity. And this time they didn't waste it. Kiké Hernández opened the inning with a single. That immediately created pressure. The Dodgers had runners in scoring position and an opportunity to take control again. Then Freddie Freeman stepped into the batter's box. Freeman didn't need to do anything spectacular. He simply needed to execute, and he did. He lifted a sacrifice fly that brought home Andy Page's, the automatic runner. The Dodgers were back in front, 5-4, but they had learnt their lesson already. A one-run lead wasn't enough. They needed insurance, and that's when Mookie Betts delivered again. Betts lined an RBI single through the middle, bringing Hernández home. 6-4. 2 runs, 2 outs left, and now the Dodgers had a much better chance of finishing the job. Betts ended the night with 3 hits, including the home run and the decisive RBI single. The Dodgers now had to survive the bottom of the 10th. Tanner Scott took the mound. And unlike some of the chaotic late innings earlier in the game, this time the Dodgers closer didn't give Colorado an opening. Scott retired the Rockies in order. The final out was recorded, and the Dodgers had their sweep. 6-4, 3 straight victories in Colorado. According to the game reports, Scott earned his 18th save of the season, while Kyle Hurt picked up the win after a scoreless 9th, and suddenly the entire series looked different. The Dodgers had entered Colorado needing a spark. They got one. Actually, they got several. Otani provided the fireworks early in the series. Betts stepped up in the finale. Kiké Hernández delivered repeatedly. Kyle Tucker collected 2 hits. Freddie Freeman produced the go-ahead sacrifice fly, and the pitching staff did enough to survive Colorado's comeback. That's the biggest takeaway from this sweep. The Dodgers didn't need one player to carry them. They won because different players stepped up at different moments, and that matters enormously, because Otani won't hit a home run every night. Betts won't always have 3 hits. Freeman won't always deliver the biggest at-bat, and the bullpen won't always have a comfortable situation. A championship caliber team has to be able to win when the stars are not all performing at their absolute best. That's exactly what happened in Colorado. Otani had already done plenty during the first 2 games, but in the finale, he went hitless. And instead of collapsing, the Dodgers found another way. That is encouraging, especially because the Dodgers are entering the final stretch of the regular season. Every series becomes more important, every close game becomes another test, and every player who proves he can deliver under pressure becomes more valuable. The sweep also gives Los Angeles something it desperately needed: momentum. The Dodgers had gone through an inconsistent stretch before arriving in Colorado, but they didn't simply win 1 game, they won 3. They scored 24 runs across the series, and the offense received contributions from multiple parts of the lineup. Otani was the headline early, but the final game belonged to the depth of the roster, and that may be even more important than another Otani highlight. Because the Dodgers already know what Otani can do. They've seen him hit 30 home runs. They've seen him change games with 1 swing. They've seen him produce performances that completely overwhelm opposing pitching. What they need to know now is whether the rest of the roster can consistently support him. Against Colorado, the answer was encouraging. Betts stepped up, Hernández stepped up, Tucker stepped up, Freeman stepped up. The bullpen responded when the game was finally on the line, and the Dodgers walked away with a sweep. Now there is still work to do. The bullpen remains an area that needs consistency. The Dodgers gave up a 4-run lead in this game. That's not something they can afford to repeat against stronger postseason opponents. But there is a difference between struggling and failing to respond. The Dodgers struggled, then they responded, and that's what makes this victory valuable. They were tested, they were challenged, they watched Colorado erase their lead, and instead of allowing the game to slip away, they found a way to win it in the 10th. That's the kind of experience that can matter later. If you enjoyed this Dodgers breakdown, make sure to like the video, subscribe to Baseball Pulse, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next Shohei Ohtani and Dodgers update. And let me know in the comments, do you think this Rockies sweep can be the turning point of the Dodgers season?